Before we moved, you know, I was aware of the issues with having to move off the land, and the negotiations that parents and others were having with BC Hydro, and you know, and the talk, I guess, of people. It was kind of a done deal. You had no choice. At some point, you were going to have to move off your property, and it was just I think being aware of being just at a young age, just I guess just negotiations and what maybe the stress that people were going through and trying to get the best deal they can, and you know, having to change their life plans. Basically, you had no choice. You had to move off the land, and you know, being, you know, a young age, like I say, it just you know, hearing the discussions around the table and stuff like that of you know, people, you know, struggling to get a good deal for themselves, and then to move on with their life and what they were going to do. I mean, you know, that wasn't in their plans, I'm sure, when they settled. I remember, you know, hydro people coming, talk to mom and dad, you know, and you know, being in the kitchen negotiating, and you know, some of the conversations, and again, you know, people getting together and trying to get a better deal, you know, as a group of people, and some of what went in, some of the lawyers that they spoke to, and some of the appraisers and stuff like that, and you know, because it was a fairly lengthy process, and again, it was just something that you couldn't get away from. It was an everyday thing, you know, realizing at some point you were going to have to move, and you know, what the future held for you. I remember the appraiser coming down, doing the appraisal for our property so we could negotiate with hydro and stuff like that. So again, it's just a long process, I think, and you know, the stress and mom and dad having to figure out, you know, what options they had, and go from there. So when we moved off the farm, I was 67, so I was 11 years old, and I remember once the decision was made, we decided to move up to higher ground. We had property that would not be as impacted by the reservoir, so mom and dad decided to move the house to there. So it was again, I remember the process of you know, having to get contractors and build a basement again and clear the land. Overnight, you know, some things disappeared. The first evening that we were up on the new place, the next day we went down, things had disappeared overnight. You know, people knew that people were moving off the property, so somebody, you know, came down, and you know, they just went through the buildings and took, you know, just equipment and that. So I mean, we just, you know, it was just not feasible for us to move everything all at once again. So we lost, Dad lost, you know, equipment, some smaller equipment. I remember going down, and because I could start to see smoke coming from the farm, so I headed down, and you know, the barn was burning, what was left, the log house. I just arrived on the farm just as Dad was finished getting the log house set fire to. So I mean, and those were buildings that the house, the log house, is what he grew up in and what I spent my early years in. And the barn, you know, he maintained, him and Mom maintained, you know, removed snow in the winter. So, you know, I don't know how he had the strength to basically destroy what was left of that, you know, after spending those years. You know, it provided shelter for the animals, and now your childhood home, to actually burn it to the ground. We had to sell the cattle and, you know, get rid of butcher the pigs and you know, and the chickens. So all that disappeared. So we no longer had that available for us on the new property. All those memories you had of walking to the apple trees or to the river, and you know, what you, for 11 years of your life or part of that younger age, of seeing daily, now just disappearing before your eyes, you know, basically just flattened. So it was, you know, it forever changed. You know, you couldn't, in a few years time, it wasn't something that you could go back and visit and see what someone else was doing with your property. It was gone. You know, it was going to be underwater for part of the year and that. So it was, you know, again, just seeing how much change there was, and your neighbors, people that you went to school with, now everybody's gone different directions all at the same time. So there was a big change. You only had a limited time to negotiate, and so it's not something that you can just say, well, I'm not going to move this year, I'll move at some other point. You didn't have those options. It had to be done in a short time frame. So it was, you had to get things done. Some of the discussion was that, you know, you would hear people talking about an offer, and then if you didn't, you know, Hydro may expropriate you, and you know, there was, I guess, some concern that people might get expropriated and not, you know, and not get the latest offer. You know, there was some concern that they might be given just a lower price, and once they reached, you know, they were expropriated. So I think that was some of the concerns that people had. The plan was, you know, to stay on the farm, you know, because that had been in the family since great-grandfather's time. So I don't think, if it wasn't for BC Hydro and you know, the dam construction, I don't think we would have, you know, Mom and Dad would have moved off the farm. You know, some people that may have sold, then, you know, we were hearing that again, to buy another house in town, you know, it was costly. They didn't, you know, to get to buy a house you know, there was still, there wasn't a lot of money. You know, if they didn't get a lot of money for the farm, then, you know, they were having to, you know, it was tough for them to buy something in town. Again, just, you know, just the price difference between what they got for their farm and, again, the cost of a house in Revelstoke. You know, there was, you know, people were, you know, struggling, I guess, to reestablish themselves, and that they went from acreages now to small lots. The valley bottom is where all the farming was taking place. So once that was flooded, you had very limited areas that were available, you know, to establish farms on. There was a few close to us that was on higher ground. Again, wasn't going to be affected by the reservoir, so those can continue to operate, but they were very small in number, and basically from Revelstoke south, basically all the farmland disappeared. Everything changed again. There was farther down the valley, there was cattle ranches and stuff like that that were established, and those all disappeared. You wouldn't realize that it was farmland, and there was community hall, schools, in the past, and that was all gone. All the farms disappeared.